The LED screen is so massive. There is the ability to do both, give you proper fight coverage if you're seated inside the venue, but also have really rich content take over the entire media plane so that we have that ability to storytell while fights are going on.
Well, it's a pleasure right now to be joined by Craig Borsari, executive producer at the UFC. Now, Craig, thanks ever so much for your time on Fox Sports. Now, for viewers at home who don't know, Craig is essentially the reason that the UFC cards look so good and flow so well every single weekend. Craig, we really appreciate you joining us. Now, let's get right into it. What challenges and opportunities does this weekend's UFC Noche card taking place at the Las Vegas Sphere presented to you and the team?
Well, there were a multitude of challenges leading into this that we had to sort out, figure out on the front end. And this was, 8, 9, 10 months ago. Primarily our lighting configuration, since we're not really in a venue where putting a lighting truss 32 feet above our octagon makes any sense, because if we're blocking this incredible LED screen that we're going to populate with content. So a lot of technical challenges to try to figure out exactly how we could put on an event that we hope exceeds everybody's expectations. In terms of the opportunity, this is a real opportunity for us at the UFC to expose a whole new audience to our sport. And we expect a lot of first-time viewers to tune in and really. In addition to new viewers getting exposed to our sport and our athletes, we also have an incredible opportunity to really activate the Mexican marketplace, where we've made a big investment with the Performance Institute. It's very important for us to make some strong inroads to Mexico. Not that we haven't in the past, but this really allows us to try to level it up.
Yeah, Craig, what's been really impressive to me in all my years of watching the UFC is the consistency that you guys are able to generate from card to card to card, regardless of where in the world you guys are, whether you're here in Australia, over there in the US or Asia or Europe. Every card is able to look the same, and you guys have been able to generate that kind of recognizability for your brand. How important is that for the UFC product, and will that get thrown out the window this weekend?
That's a really good question, because you're right. I've been with the company for 20 years, and our live event product, we try our absolute best and pay a tremendous amount of attention to try to create a look and feel that is consistent no matter where we are in the world. And we've done, as you know, events in Abu Dhabi, we've done events in Germany, we've done events all throughout Europe. In Australia, I mean, you name it. And every time we go into that market, into a venue, it's the process is trying to figure out how do we configure our show to have a similar feeling as if it were taking place here in my backyard in Las Vegas. This event is anything but that. It is such a unique venue. And we've never been in a position where the venue actually is the driving force for a production element. And, the LED technology inside Sphere is so exceptional. It's so overwhelming that it will now be the venue actually takes on this third character outside of the two fighters that is wildly relevant to the production of the night. So yes, everything's out the door in terms of trying to replicate a look and feel of a UFC event that we would typically do the past 30 years.
Now, if I could just peel back the curtain a little bit, Craig, the UFC is very, very unique in that you guys are your own production team, which is not common amongst, I guess, broadcaster and fight promoter relationships. I was speaking to a UFC staffer not too long ago when you guys were here for 305 in Perth, and he was telling me that, yes, you guys have your own production team as usual, but he's also telling me that there's a second extra production team that's been specifically brought in just for this event to ensure that the live experience of the fans in the venue translates to the TV pay-per-view product. There's like a special task force specifically dedicated to this. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. So typically when we go into a pay-per-view event, we will have an A and B unit TV truck that is tasked with what you've seen for decades now, the fight coverage that we present to the home viewer. We are adding 2 additional TV trucks to the camera complement so that we will have the ability, with the cameras that we're going to deploy across the venue, to give the viewer at home around the world the experience as close to being inside the venue as we possibly can get. And that requires a tremendous amount of coordination, communication between the 2 trucks, because we still will have our fight truck handling fight coverage, but we will be cutting in cameras throughout the night where I like to reference this early guiding principle that we've had, which is we want that experience at home to feel as if you're in the 200 or 300 level of the venue a lot of the night, taking in the chapters of the films that we're creating, as well as these digital worlds takeovers of the entire LED screen. So yeah, we made a very deliberate measure to bring in separate director, separate TV truck and cameras dedicated for that task.
Wow, that's so fascinating, Craig. Like I was saying, I'm a line producer and video editor by trade, so I'm like a kid in a candy shop right now hearing you talk about all this. But let's get into the specifics, right? One of the main questions that I see floating around a lot pertains to that massive LED screen within the Sphere. My automatic assumption was that you would just put fight vision in that screen. However, because it's spherical, how is that going to work? Is it going to be like a big fishbowl effect, or will it be like Russ Cargill in The Simpsons, just like a small rectangle?
Yeah, so early on we had to figure out, well, how are we going to display the fights within the media plane or the LED screen? And there are a few things at play. One, if you take over a large part of the media plane with fight content, it takes away your ability to storytell this other narrative that we're trying to tell across the night, which is this celebration of the Mexican people, their culture and their heritage. So if you really populate during the fight coverage, if you populate that media plane with fight content, well, you're starting to minimize your ability to storytell. So we tried to figure out what is that happy balance? What's that happy medium between allowing fans to experience the fights, take them inside the venue and at home in a way where it feels appropriate inside the building, but also be able to tell this story constantly throughout the night. So we were trying to thread that needle. We feel like we've come up with a happy medium. The other thing that you need to be careful with, and you touched on it in your question, is in that building, if your fight footage is too big, you start to get some warping and distortion with the fighters. I'm getting a little too technical here probably, but that starts to really take away from the way you'd want to actually view the fights. It's such a massive screen, and it is spherical, right? It is curved, that now all of a sudden you start to get your athletes starting to, not really appear the way you'd want them to on a more traditional 16:9 setting.
Well, that's really, really interesting, because I was seeing vision of that U2 concert that they had there not too long ago, and they had these incredible, grandiose visual effects and these magnificent graphics that were sort of being looped throughout the concert. That kind of works for a concert because you're not really fixated on what's taking place on stage. You don't need to be glaring at Bono the whole time, right? But for the Octagon, you need to be focused on what's taking place inside the ring. You need to be watching the fighters. So how do you strike that balance between creating something awesome and ensuring that it doesn't take away from the action of the fight?
So very early on, we spent a lot of time walking the building and really trying to figure out, well, what's the right spacing? What's the right size? And what we ultimately came up with was this idea to take over the entire media plane. The entire LED screen will be populated with a digital, we're calling them worlds or environments, that are tied to the narrative of the night. And within those worlds, we will have cutouts or pictures and pictures of windows that will allow the fights to take place within those windows that are sitting inside that environment. A little hard to articulate exactly how that works, but that's the concept. And, we really played around with what that fight coverage window will look like. But the screen, the LED screen is so massive that there is the ability, we feel, to do both, give you proper fight coverage if you're seated inside the venue, but also have really rich content take over the entire media plane, so that we have that ability to storytell while fights are going on. It's a tricky balance, but one that we feel pretty good about leading into event week here.
Well, it's so interesting. Craig, only a couple more, and then I promise we'll let you go. You mentioned the Mexican Independence Day celebration. I read somewhere that fans within the arena are actually going to be able to listen to Spanish commentary while in attendance. How's that going to work? Are you guys going to have like headphones attached to every chair?
Yeah. Well, they wouldn't be attached to every chair, but yes, there will be headphones available and technology that will allow them to put in headphones and listen to a secondary audio of our Spanish language team calling the fights.
And I'm also hearing about haptic seats, like chairs that will provide feedback depending on what's taking place inside the octagon. I imagine impact with every punch or kick, like a Shrek 4D kind of thing. I mean, this is just groundbreaking stuff. Talk us through the process of ensuring that takes place.
So Sphere Las Vegas is built and equipped with about 10,000 of their seats have this technology to transmit haptic feedback to the seats, which allows us as content creators to marry up moments where we're running some of the chapters of the film and marry up haptic feedback hits to the seat that is synced up to what's going on the media plane. So we'll be doing that. We'll be doing that during the world transitions as well. We'll also be doing that during actual live fight action.
That's so fascinating. This is certainly going to be a once-in-a-lifetime event, and you certainly don't want to miss it. Live and exclusive here on Main Event. Craig Borsari, won't take much more of your time. Thanks so much for your time here on Fox Sports Australia, and all the best this weekend. Godspeed. It seems like a hell of a production.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.